Hello everyone, I'm Tom Watch. The VS Factory GMT has been released for quite some time. Recently, with C Factory running into issues, the VS Factory watch has become incredibly Today, let's discuss this VS Factory Coke and see how the craftsmanship holds up. First, let's look at the watch's dimensions. For watches from major factories, the dimensions are generally not an issue. The genuine version has a 40mm case diameter. Our actual measurement comes in at 39.8mm. As is widely known, replica watches often measure slightly smaller with calipers. Now, let's check the thickness. Measuring directly from the crystal. The thickness is 12mm. As mentioned earlier, replica watches tend to measure slightly smaller. One reason is the precision of the calipers. Another reason is that their case diameter dimensions are determined through projection measurement. So, there will be a slight deviation in direct measurements. Let's check the weight. The total weight of the watch is 140.22 grams. My wrist size is around 17 something to 18 centimeters, and it fits perfectly. This bracelet is neither too long nor too short. If your wrist is on the larger side, you'll need to add links. However, VS Factory parts are currently very difficult to order, and getting their bracelets takes a very long time. You could use a bracelet from another factory version with minimal impact. It's a sapphire crystal. The crystal edge has a chamfered finish. The VS Factory's new crystal edge is closer to the genuine compared to C Factory's. This is because C Factory's was too rounded. The crystal's clarity is excellent, and the Cyclops lens has no AR coating. In contrast, C Factory's Cyclops did have an AR coating applied. This crystal absolutely does not need to be replaced with an aftermarket one because it is already excellent. The dial details are also flawless. The dial font is correct to gen, with no font bleeding. The index surrounds are also polished. The date is centered. The font is the correct bold type. The date font is also very sharp, with no bleeding. The hands are quite clean, with no obvious burrs, especially the tips of the hands. There are no noticeable cutting marks. It's very accurate to the genuine model. The color of the GMT hand is also correct to gen. The Lume application on the hands and indices is very even, with no overflow. The Lume effect is also accurate to gen. It's an ice blue Lume. But I'm not sure why it appears whiter in the video. Some friends ask why Lume sometimes looks white, sometimes yellow, or other colors in photos. This is actually related to the phone's CMOS sensor. The ambient lighting can also have an effect. However, when you look at it in person, there is no such variation. The outer bezel is the latest V3 version, the same as C Factory's V3. Under a UV light, the blue portion will turn a cherry red color. When C Factory first produced this, some said the V3 bezel didn't match the genuine. But frankly, anyone who says that clearly has no experience with the genuine article. The genuine bezel also has different versions. The V3 version and the V2 version are both correct to gen, they just correspond to newer and older models. So you don't need to get hung up on whether it's a V3 or V2 bezel. Both are correct to gen. The filling of the bezel numerals is also flawless. With these new types of bezels, the color in the engravings will not fade. Another aspect I find exceptionally well done is the bezel's rotation feel. I personally think it's much better than C Factory's. I'm wearing gloves, so it's a bit hard to grip, but with bare hands, the feel of the rotation is excellent. The bezel's coin edge teeth correspond to the new genuine model's size. C Factory's teeth were a bit larger. These small details are very well done. The case and bracelet are both 904L steel. The case finishing is quite good, with no real flaws to point out. The details on the crown are also on point. The finishing on the bracelet is also quite good. It has proper chamfering on the edges. The clasp as well. The small, chamfered edges have all been executed. However, I feel that the clasp and bracelet are not as smooth as C Factory's. Those who frequently handle watches might be able to tell the difference. The inside of the clasp is quite clean. Overall, there are no major issues. As I mentioned earlier, for the bracelet and clasp, I feel it's not done as well as C Factory's. But I think this is an issue that only someone who constantly handles watches would notice. For others, it's very difficult to spot the difference. The connection between the end link and the case is very tight, and the small step has been replicated. The finishing on the case back is also quite good. I feel that even if C Factory makes a comeback, they'll have a hard time catching up without an upgrade. The movement is the Dandong 3285 integrated clone movement. This movement used to be exclusive to C Factory. But now, VS Factory is also able to source this movement. The details of the movement are excellent. Of course, the finishing will be a step down from the genuine. Also, the balance bridge is an instant tell. The genuine uses a free-sprung balance for regulation. The Dandong 3285 still has a regulator system. If you look closely at these two regulator pins details, this is one of the ways to identify the Dandong 3285 movement. Currently, for high-end replica watches, VS Factory is the top choice. There are no other options. VS Factory is not accepting any specific model orders at the moment. If you want to purchase one, you have to keep an eye on dealer stock updates. When the stock arrives, we will certainly post an update. You really have to be quick to get one. Although the finishing details on the bracelet and clasp are slightly lacking. If you're not someone who constantly handles various versions of replica watches, it's nearly impossible to notice this issue. Therefore, this VS Factory Coke is highly recommended. Apart from the long wait, there are almost no flaws. Alright, that's all for today's review. See you next time. Bye bye.